What's going on, everybody? This is your man Abe-Unit, reporting live from the DMV. But you know what? That's enough for me. Today on the Abe-Unit Show, I have a special guest in the building. And we'll start off with a quick intro before we dive too deep into the show. Let's go.
What's up? This is Abel Meri, and this is the Abe-Unit Show.
Abel Meri, hip-hop artist, real estate investor, tech startup founder. We're going to get into all of that, but now it's time for our first segment, the warm-up. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think you missed something in the profile. Is it cool if I...
What did I miss?
I was the co-host of the BOB podcast.
Oh, I cannot forget that.
I was laid off on my day off, and somebody told me on Twitter that I was fired. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to be fired.
All right, let's get right into it. The warm-up. What is your favorite drink?
Coke Zero.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Trust your instincts.
When are you the most productive?
When I'm awake. It's the truth, man.
What scares you?
Not being in control.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
What is your favorite number and why?
7. I just like it. I don't know. Like I didn't know the connection of it being like a spiritual number. I just liked it. I always liked the way it looked like aesthetically.
Your favorite cake flavor?
Cake flavor? Mm-hmm. Right now I would say the chantilly cake from Whole Foods.
How do you start your day?
Prayer, shower.
In what subject were you the worst at school?
Math. In
what subject were you the best at school?
English.
All right, let's talk music. When did your love for music start?
Childhood. Like, I'll say maybe 6 years old, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah. When did you start writing? Because how many albums do you have right now?
21 official. If you count the mixtapes and all that, it's probably closer to like 35.
Okay. How would you describe your music?
Timeless. Okay.
I know that Lecrae, he doesn't want to be known as a Christian rapper, but he wants to be known as a rapper whose music is influenced by his Christian faith. How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I would say that I think anybody in any profession doesn't want like the stigma of being in a subgenre. You don't want to be a black engineer. You don't want to be a female astronaut. You just want to be an astronaut. That qualification makes it look like, you know, you're not as successful as you may think you are. I think there's a limiting factor to it. But I would describe myself kind of similar to, I've heard Lecrae say that before. I think I'm just a rapper that feels compelled enough to incorporate some of my beliefs and my faith in my music.
What I find really interesting about your music is that you don't cuss, and I've never heard you cuss on a record.
You haven't heard some of my old stuff, but
is that before you got saved?
Yeah, anything post like 2016, 17, around there. Like everything is no profanity, no cursing, no negative imagery. And you would think that for rap specifically, the genre of music that has a lot of profanity and like explicit lyrics because of the honesty of it, and just people are using everyday vernacular to write songs as opposed to like things that are more structured and melodic. You would think that it helps you to have those words to lean on, but I've actually found it more freeing, and it's made me a way better artist than being able to express myself and capture emotions that are extreme without having to resort to those words.
If somebody's never heard your songs or your music, what is a good place for them to start?
Based on like the feedback that I get from a lot of people, I think Soul Plane is the album that a lot of people just really gravitated towards initially, like on a first listen. I think sonically it's balanced, maybe a little bit better than some of the other albums I put together, and that was by design. I wanted to make something that was a little bit more centric when I was doing Soul Plane, so I think that's a good place to start.
Is there a song that you always kind of go back to in terms of you have a huge catalog, right? Is there a song that you always like to listen back to that kind of brings you comfort?
On Unscripted, there's a couple songs on there. Appreciate the Moment. it's just kind of talking about how a lot of times we don't necessarily appreciate blessings in the moment, and it takes going through some difficult times to look back at a period of time where we felt like we had more than we do. But the reality is that you're always in a moment of blessing and fortune if you're able to breathe and be alive. So always appreciate the moment. I try to remind myself of that as much as I can.
Now, I want to shift a little bit to real estate. You are a real estate investor. What was it that made you get into real estate? Is this something that you've always wanted to do, or is this something that kind of grew as you got older and you started seeing what was going on around you?
It was like kind of being on the bad end of real estate transactions in the past, and living in the DC area, you see how land and areas in the city that were super undervalued 20 years ago are now, I mean, you can't afford it if you wanted to buy it. And there was a time where they were literally giving that land away. Like, nobody wanted to buy it. So even though you can't go backwards and try to recapture that moment, you can try to find a similar opportunity in the present time. So it kind of was, real estate always, especially in this area, it always appreciates. And there's such a demand of people always wanting to be here and needing to be here. And we were looking to buy something to live in, and it was my sister and myself. And then we kind of had the idea of saying, hey, let's look at it as an investment as opposed to something that we wanted to actually occupy and live in. And it worked out well, learned the ropes, and then just, it's a very formulaic business, right? You just find something that's undervalued, put some money into it, figure out the right neighborhood to buy in, you kind of learn what the comps are, and figure out what the accurate, fair price is to buy, and then you just rent it out. And the rent, at a minimum, pays the mortgage, but we've been able to actually generate cash flow from it.
So what would you say is the end game with real estate?
The end game is to leverage your equity to be able to buy more properties at higher price points.
You just want to keep doing that?
Yeah. So, like, the more you have, the more assets, and the more, the less of a risk you become for anybody that's lending money to you, because they know that you have substantial assets, so they're willing to give you more money on better terms, which allows you to buy more properties.
So how does what you do play into gentrification? Are you doing anything personally to stop gentrification?
I don't think anybody can stop gentrification. Like, that ship has sailed already, but what you can do is give people opportunities, and you could be more considerate and more liberal with, for example, renting in a neighborhood. If you raise the requirements, the income requirements, and the rent too much, then you're basically pricing certain people out of that neighborhood. But if you're willing to make it affordable and allow them to qualify, like some of the people that I rent to, they wouldn't qualify for rent in other buildings because the income requirements and like just their rental requirements are so stringent. So I've given opportunities to people that were rejected from a lot of other places to rent. So I've given them, a place to stay in a neighborhood that is being gentrified. It's burned me a couple of times where
I would imagine.
But overall, I've even those opportunities, I didn't regret it. I would have probably.
That's okay with you taking the L.
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
I rolled the dice on it, and more so than not, it's actually worked out. And I've seen people actually get their lives together. People that had gone through something that was difficult. That if on a rental application, it's just you put it into a system. It just says yes or no based on whether you met the criteria or not. But I have conversations with people. I give them opportunities, and I'll listen to their story. And if I feel like they are somebody that I feel like I can help and that would be a good tenant despite not looking good on paper, I'll give them an opportunity, and I'll do a short-term lease with them. And if it works out, we'll
like
renew
a probation kind of.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that are really trying to get their lives together and they're on the upswing, they're willing to do that. And so, like,
but it sounds to me like conflict of interest almost, because you are in this game to make money, right? Essentially,
yeah.
But you're also trying to help people.
Yeah,
you're kind of like battling yourself a little bit.
Yeah, you are.
Especially as a young up and coming real estate investor?
Yeah, there's definitely risk, but there's risk associated with anybody, right? So there are people that qualify, and then they're bad tenants, right? And then there's people that wouldn't qualify that are great tenants as well. Sometimes when you're dealing with like bigger companies, it's a corporate decision. So like the person that's looking at your application doesn't even have the discretion to say yes or no. There's a calculation. They're just sending it to corporate, and the corporate is saying they don't know who you are, they don't know your story. They just look at your credit score, your income, rental history, and just say yes or no based on that. When you put a person's face in their story, and you look at them as a human as opposed to just like a social security number and a credit rating, there's a humanity aspect to it. And to be honest with you, it only has worked against me twice, and I've had overwhelming success with the people that I've actually given an opportunity to. So
You shooting a high percentage?
Yeah, very high. Like I'm talking like a good free throw shooter.
One advice that you would give yourself if you were starting out in real estate again?
Have started like 25 years ago.
Okay.
Because this area has had such an upswing.
This area being?
D.C. metropolitan area, so like Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland, and Washington, D.C. There was a time where they were selling houses for like $5,000 to $8,000.
Yeah.
Where the National Stadium is right now. And that's Park. And those houses now, even if it's a tear down, is going for like $800K. And then like the nice ones are, they're like $1.8 million, $2 million.
Oh, that's real. All right, let's. As mentioned at the top of the show, you are a tech startup founder as well.
Yep.
Notice Enterprise. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you got started with that, and what it actually is?
Okay, so what it is, it's to give you a reference point. Imagine Calendly meets Service Titan. So we're essentially a scheduling platform. So we allow businesses to publish their schedule in order to be able to have customers book based on their availability. So that's like the Calendly side of it. But we capture a lot of data and data points throughout the process of actual transaction flow. So we're able to show you how you're performing, and we're able to optimize your schedule based on your real-world performance metrics. And then we also do arrival tracking. So that's like, the cable company tells you they'll be there between, this time and this time, and you're literally a hostage at the appointment. So we actually Uberize that whole process for small businesses, so they're able to tell you exactly what time they're arriving, and you're able to get status updates and notifications.
So you don't have to cancel your entire day just waiting for that.
Sit on the couch all day waiting for like a furniture delivery, or like a home services company, like a pest control, or plumbing, electrical, HVAC, maid services. So that's essentially what we do.
What is your vision for Notice?
We want to be a household name. We want to be kind of a go-to platform for people that want to basically do transactions on an appointment basis. And I think the pandemic it increased and accelerated the cycle of tech adoption. So like a lot of industries that would have taken a lot longer to get the customer base that they did, probably did 5 years of progress within 5 months. Like think of something like Zoom, right? Now everybody's on Zoom. It's part of our lives. It's kind of a staple in our everyday lives. But how many people were using video conferencing before the pandemic? How many people downloaded Uber Eats and Grubhub for the first time because of the pandemic? So all of these technology platforms have seen a lot of benefit in the advantage of people using convenience and expecting convenience. So what we want to do is we want to become a major stakeholder in all of the appointment-driven transactions for services. And we're actually working on a government contract with the Department of Defense. I can't tell you exactly which branch it is, but...
You can.
No, I'm under... I don't want a lawsuit from the people I'm working with, but that'll be huge if we can get, into like the federal space. And, that'll be an absolute game changer for us.
No, that's real. All right, so let's recap. You are a hip-hop artist, real estate investor, tech startup founder, and you've also mentioned a co-host on the B.O.B. podcast.
Yeah. It's on my LinkedIn still, I think.
Yeah. What are you the most proud of and why?
It's a toss-up between the music and the startup, right? So the music is the volume and the quality of content that I've been able to create in about 18 months, like 18 albums, actually 21 albums in 18 months. No pen, no cursing. I don't know of anybody that's been able to do it at that pace and retain the quality and actually even improve over time. So I think that's the thing that, like, if I would say I'm world class at that, right? Like, there's very few people on the planet that can do that at that level, right? There's other people that can do real estate. There's other people that can create a startup, right?
Right.
But I think being able to independently create that, never touch a pen, never write a lyric down, and like, I would put my catalog up against anybody. Like, even the people I grew up listening to that were like my inspirations and my icons, I would go song for song with any of them. So I don't know necessarily if I passed Steve Jobs in the tech space. I mean, I can tell you I haven't, right? Clearly I haven't. At some point I might. Yeah. Right now, though, I clearly have not. But you can say any artist, whoever, old, new, dead, alive, and
you're bodying them on the track.
That, but also the body of work and the like the catalog size and the quality, like, I'll put it up against anybody.
Yeah. No, that's real. And I think people will hear you say that you're world class.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, is that arrogance or confidence, right? But what I want to know is, do you have to have that kind of confidence in order for you to even become a rapper or be a rapper and sustain it for as long as that you have?
No, I don't think it's a requirement at all.
Can you be? Are there rappers that have low self-esteem in terms of their skill set? I'm not talking about their personal lives, but
yeah.
Can you not feel good about your music and still create content?
Yeah, I think in my experience, artists are very insecure. Like, it doesn't matter how many times
about their art specifically.
Yeah, and I mean, my insecurity is different. It's more, can I still do it? Right. So like, I'm always like, can I do it again? Right. And even like right now, I'm in the middle of recording a song. When I started it, that was the thought I had. I was like, can I really do it at the level of the track I just did 3 days ago? Right?
What'd you find out?
Yeah, I got better in the last 3 days. Yeah. So yeah, the answer to your question is, I don't think you need it, and I think most artists have some level of insecurity, regardless of how big they are as an artist.
Okay, that's fair. We talked a lot about all the projects that you've been involved in, right? It's a lot. It seems like it's more than a full-time job. But how, I want to know, because you are a man of faith, how does your faith play into all of this?
So to me, it's just like in my music, you'll hear it, right? You'll hear that what the inspiration was, or you'll hear how much value it has to me. It's knowing that I'm not ultimately in control. Like, there's somebody above me that is guiding me, right? So my confidence isn't in my talent. My confidence is in God's gift to me is enough to get me wherever I need to go.
That's real deep, man. Like, but in terms of, but you would sit down and have a conversation and give somebody the gospel. Like, yo, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
A person will come to you when they're ready, and they'll say, if they see it in you, if you live it enough, and if they can see it in your actions, they're going to ask questions, right? Like, when I did my big weight loss, I didn't have to tell people. They came and asked me, hey, how did you do that? Tell me. Give me some insight, right? I didn't have to go tell people, oh, you're fat. You need to do what I did, right? That person, if I need to tell you that, you're not ready to do it, right? So if you live it out, if you live out whatever it is that you would give as advice, or whatever people are going to come and ask you the questions anyways.
Yeah. That's funny. Just for reference point, like, what did you used to weigh and what do you weigh now, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
I mean, that's a personal question. I don't know if I feel comfortable.
Exclusively on the Abe-Unit show. I need to separate myself from...
Let me ask, I was 255 at my peak, right? I could have gone higher, but that's the highest I weighed myself at.
Okay.
I think I was
255.
Yeah, I think I was a little north of that at one point.
And how tall are you?
6'2".
See, you're about to give us a 6'3", almost.
Yeah, no, I thought I was 6'1". Last time I went to the doctor, they told me I was 6'2". I was like, all right, cool, I'll roll with that. So, yeah, and then the biggest scale swing was 255, 144.
Well, definitely appreciate your time. Is there any final thoughts, final message that you want to get off to the world?
Yeah, you know I don't like giving advice, but something that's worked for me is
Nobody's getting ready to sue you.
no, I just don't. I think that I just don't like imposing. You know what I'm saying? But trust your instincts, right? Like, you'll regret not trusting your instincts. The outcome of not trusting your instincts will always be more regrettable than a negative outcome from trusting your instincts. Like, you can live with the shot that you missed. It's way harder to live with the shot you didn't take.
That's real. That's good.